Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious, so if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. Real quick before I get into the dinners, I did just want to say that this week's video is shorter than normal. I've got a couple less meals than what I normally share with you. The reason for that is there were several days this week that my sinuses were just acting a fool and I really did not feel like cooking very much at all. So I went off meal plan a night or two, and then a couple nights we did yo-yo nights, or you're on your own, where you basically just find what you want for dinner. But hopefully you can still get some dinner inspiration. So first, I have never made this before. I've never had it before. I believe it's pronounced Ropa Vieja. I had a flank steak in my freezer that I wanted to use up, and I've been wanting to try Cuban food, and so I found this recipe and I thought this would be something good to try. I'll have the recipe that I used. I'll link that in the description box below for you, and here are the ingredients that I'm going to use. Now it looks like a lot, but most of them are spices, and you probably have most of these spices already in your pantry. I've got some minced garlic, onion that I'm going to chop up, some tomato paste, a bell pepper I'm going to chop up, beef broth, sugar, salt, pepper. The recipe called for crushed tomatoes. I didn't have any in my pantry, so I just took the petite diced and whizzed them up with my immersion blender. And then this recipe didn't call for adobo, but I saw another recipe that did, and I had it on hand, so I decided to go ahead and use that. And then we've got some bay leaves, smoked paprika, cumin, regular paprika, oregano. The recipe called for some white wine. I have this 0 alcohol Chardonnay on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. If you don't have any wine or you prefer not to use it, you can just use some extra broth. And then I've got the flank steak. Please totally disregard the chipotle peppers. I started this really early in the morning, and I just kind of glanced down in my notebook and I saw adobo, and I grabbed the chipotle peppers, and then as I was putting together, I was like, what was I thinking? I was meaning the adobo seasoning, not chipotle and adobo. So just disregard that. All right, so to my crock pot, I've added the broth, the garlic, tomato paste, onion, bell pepper, sugar, the tomatoes, and the wine. I also added a bay leaf. I went ahead and gave that a stir. Next, I rubbed both sides of the flank steak with the spices and then added the flank steak on top. I covered this with a lid, and then I cooked this on low for about 8 hours until it was tender and falling apart. Next, I removed the bay leaf, and then I took the flank steak and put it in a separate bowl, and I shredded it up with 2 forks, and it was so tender it just fell apart. Now, according to what I read, and I'm not an expert, but I believe Ropa Vieja means like shredded rags, which the meat is supposed to resemble, so you want to shred it pretty well. And once I did that, I placed it back into the crock pot along with all of the liquid and juices, and I gave it a stir, and I turned the crock pot on to warm while I finished the rest of dinner. Now, while I was looking at recipes for this, several recipes I saw said that adding pimento stuffed olives into this is traditional. And again, I'm not an expert, but just based off that, I know my husband loves olives. I do not like them at all. I don't eat them. But I'm going to use these manzanilla olives and stir them into his portion of the Ropa Vieja. The recipes that I read said it's traditional to serve this with rice, black beans, and fried plantains. That's what we're going to make. Basically just going to doctor up some canned black beans. So to this pot, I'm adding a couple cans. I did not rinse or drain them, and I'll link a recipe in the description box below for you. But I just kind of did my own thing based on several different recipes. So next I'm going to add in some cooked onions. These I just cooked and caramelized separately. I'd made some French onion soup. And then I'm going to add some salt and pepper and some garlic powder, onion powder, some oregano, smoked paprika, cumin, and then I stirred it to combine, and I turned the heat on to about medium low and just allowed them to simmer for about 20 minutes. Now for the fried plantains. I've never made these before. I don't remember ever having them, but just from seeing them cooked like on the Food Network, When I pulled these out, I did not think that they were ripe enough, and I had let them sit for a week in a brown paper sack, which I had read was supposed to make them ripen faster. And I don't think that they were ripe enough. And like I said, I don't know for sure. I've never had them before, but what I read was that they were supposed to like caramelize and get almost sweet, and these did not. Now, I shared this over on Instagram when I made it. If you're on Instagram and you're not following me, give me a follow. I share pretty much every day over there. But someone responded and said that I believe she said she's Panamanian, and she said that their cuisine is very similar to Cuban cuisine. And she said there that they use the like under-ripened plantains. They fry them once and then smash them and fry them again. So I think I'll try that the next time as well. But all I did was peel the plantains, and if you've cooked plantains before and have a tip for peeling them, please let me know. I butchered these poor plantains. If you've never cooked with them before, like I hadn't, I know they look like a banana, but they are a lot harder to peel than a banana. I know there's more starch in them as well, but yeah, they were kind of difficult to peel. But got them peeled, and then I sliced them on the diagonal. I warmed up my oil, and then I cooked them for about 3 minutes or so on each side. And then I drained them on a paper towel and added a little bit of salt. And like I said, next time I would either try flattening them out and refrying them like the lady over on Instagram said, or make sure that the plantains are more ripe. I mean, they were okay. They weren't very flavorful, and they were kind of tough. All right, here are the finished plates. So we have the Ropa Vieja, which I garnished with a little bit of cilantro. And then for my husband's portion, like I said, I stirred some of those olives in. We've got the black beans. I just cooked up some white rice in my rice cooker. I did add some chicken bouillon to the water. And then we have the fried plantains. And aside from the fried plantains, this was delicious. The meat was tender. It was juicy. It was flavorful. And when you got a bite of the meat with the rice and the beans, it was delicious. Now, I've mentioned before on my channel that my husband Gary loves his condiments, so he like completely went untraditional and added like hot sauce and I think like sour cream to his. But even before adding that, he enjoyed this as well. So if you've never tried Cuban food, if you got a flank steak, you don't know what to do with it, or I also read you can use like a chuck roast, different cuts of meat, and you're not sure what to do with it, you want to do something other than just the standard roast, give this a try. Like I said, I'll have the recipe linked down below. For dinner the next night, I made Swiss chicken. I'll have the recipe linked down in the description box below for you. This is really easy, budget friendly, and it's a good comforting meal to make, especially during the fall and winter months. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. I've sprayed a casserole dish with some cooking spray. I've already seasoned the first side of my chicken. I'm going to season this next side with the same seasonings. I use salt, pepper, and Badia Complete. You can use whatever seasonings you like. The recipe doesn't call to season the chicken, but I like to do it normally when I'm using chicken breast. It doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own. Next, I'm going to add my Swiss cheese. I'm using slices. You could also use shredded. If you don't have Swiss, or you have family members who don't like it, you can use any other kind of cheese that you prefer. Pepper jack I think would be good. Mozzarella would be good. In this measuring cup over here, I'm going to mix up like the liquid or the sauce part. Now, the recipe calls for, I think, milk, but I've seen other recipes that call for white wine, and I have some of this same zero alcohol white wine on hand. I'm trying to use it up. So I'm going to use that, and then a can of cream of chicken and mushroom soup. Use whatever cream of soup you and your family like. I'm going to give that a stir and then pour that over the chicken and just kind of spread that out. Next, I'm going to sprinkle over some stuffing mix. Just use your favorite flavor. You do not need to cook this or hydrate it at all. We're going to sprinkle that over, and then once I've sprinkled that, I'm going to drizzle over some melted butter. Now, I have seen some recipes that call for you to add some chicken stock. I don't find that necessary, but of course you can add it if you'd like. I'm going to cover this and place this into the preheated oven. Now, the recipe said to cook this for about 15 minutes. I feel like that's way too much time unless your chicken breasts are just super thick. I had cut my chicken breast in half horizontally, and it only took my chicken about 25 minutes or so. Just make sure your chicken is cooked until it's at least 165 degrees internal temperature. Here's what it looked like when it came out of the oven, and a couple quick notes about this. So one, I know I mentioned that I like to season the chicken, but do go easy on the salt. I didn't add very much salt, and I wouldn't suggest you either. You are adding several ingredients that can be quite salty, like the cream of chicken soup, the stuffing mix, and the cheese. So maybe go easy a little bit on the salt. Second, I didn't have the recipe, but I also didn't make the full recipe. So the recipe that I use is from All Recipes. It calls for 6 chicken breasts and a full box of stuffing. I did 4 chicken breasts and used a half a box of stuffing. Now, if you are making the full recipe, if you're using 6 breasts, this is just a personal preference, but I would suggest you doubling like the sauce. So I would use 2 cans of soup and twice the amount of milk or wine, whatever liquid you're using. But again, that's just my personal preference. I like it a little more on the saucy side because it almost forms like a gravy. For my side, I made some baked asparagus. Just took some asparagus, washed it, trimmed it, placed it on this cookie sheet. I drizzled it with just a little bit of oil, then seasoned it with some salt, pepper, and the buttery steakhouse Kinder's seasoning. Gave it a toss, and I cooked it along with the casserole, same temp. Cooked it for about 15 minutes until it was tender. I mentioned in my grocery haul that I'm trying to cook from my freezers and my pantry. I have a lot of stuff that I need to rotate through. I have these potato rolls in my freezer that I wanted to use up. I've shared these before on my channel. I'll link the recipe down in the description box below. I just thawed them and then placed them into the oven, the same 350 degrees, and baked them for maybe 5 to 7 minutes until they were warm. When my husband found out what we were having for dinner, he asked if we had any cranberry sauce. I looked in the pantry and we did. We have this small can. I found this at the Dollar Tree last year around Thanksgiving time. It's the perfect size for us because it's just the 2 of us. And I don't really care for canned cranberry sauce, so it's perfect for us. Now, here are the plates. We've got the rolls. For our rolls, we use some of the Land O'Lakes cinnamon sugar butter. So yummy. And then we've got the Swiss chicken, the asparagus, and then the cranberry sauce for my husband. This is just a good, simple meal. It's not fancy, but it's comforting, it's easy, and it's delicious. If you've never tried this, I recommend you give it a try. The next day, we went off meal plan. We ordered pizza from Papa John's. Y'all, this day was just one of those days. I woke up, I was not feeling well. My sinuses were acting totally crazy. I had a horrible sinus headache. My throat hurt. I felt like stuffy headed. And then I hadn't slept the night before. Happy had went to the vet. Happy's our dog. He'd went to the vet and got some shots. And so he'd been up all night, sick to his stomach. And so I just was not feeling good. I didn't want to leave the house, but I'd placed a pickup order at Lowe's, and my husband wasn't able to go pick it up for me. And so I decided to go across town, and then there was a snafu with it. It wasn't ready. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. On my way back, like literally 3 different cars pulled out in front of me to where like I had to slam on my brakes. It was just a mess. And so at dinner time, I was like, I'm not cooking. We are ordering a pizza. So that's what we did. And to be honest with you, I didn't even get a picture of the pizza. This is a picture from pizza we ordered months ago, but it was the same thing. We just got a medium pepperoni pizza and some of their chicken poppers. Right now, Papa John's has some kind of special where if you order off a certain menu, you get 2 or more items. They're $6.99 each. So it wasn't a bad deal, but that was our dinner this night. We had leftovers for lunch the next day, so I was very grateful not to have to cook dinner or lunch. And I share this with you because I try to keep it real. I want you to know that we all have bad days. We all have days where we're stressed or we don't feel well or we're busy or whatever else. And if you have those days, don't stress. Show yourself grace. If you have to order a pizza, if it's, cereal, whatever the case may be, as long as your family's fed and everyone is safe and healthy and happy, that's all that matters. So if you have to order a pizza, order a pizza. Don't stress about it. It's all right. We all do it. We all have those days. Dinner the next night, again, sinuses going crazy, so we did a yo-yo night, or you're on your own. I didn't get a picture of this. I apologize. I had leftover Swiss chicken casserole, and my husband, I believe he had leftover French onion soup this night. For dinner the next night, I did Copycat Taco Bell Power Bowls. I don't follow a recipe for this. I just pull up the Taco Bell menu and go from what the description is for the Power Bowls. For the chicken, I've got this diced chicken breast in my freezer. I just thawed it, and I'm going to season it with some taco seasoning and get that cooked up. And then for the bowls, here is everything that I'm going to use. So first we need some Spanish rice. This would be a great way to use up leftovers. To keep it easy this night, I'm just using this microwavable rice. We've got some sour cream, the Taco Bell avocado ranch. Taco Bell doesn't add tortilla strips, but when I go to Taco Bell, I normally get their tortilla chips and eat that along with the bowl, so I'm going to use those tortilla strips. I've got some shredded iceberg lettuce. We've got some black beans. These are the leftover black beans that I had from the Ropa Vieja. So I'm just going to warm those up. And then I'm going to dice up some Roma tomato. We've got some guacamole, shredded cheese. And then Taco Bell doesn't add corn to their bowls, but I had some corn in my fridge that I wanted to use up. And we like corn in our burrito bowls, so I'm going to add that as well. In this bowl, I've got the chicken breast. Now, again, they were already diced, but if not, you could just dice it up yourself. And I'm going to add a little bit of oil, the taco seasoning, and I decided to add in some of the adobo, just trying to use it up. And I gave that a toss and then placed that into my air fryer. And I cooked this at 360 degrees for about 8 or 9 minutes. I shook it halfway through. Just cook it until it's at least 165 degrees internal temperature. Here are the bowls, so really easy to assemble. Just lay down a bed of rice and then add on the other ingredients. And then right before I eat it, I like to kind of mix everything together. These were delicious, so yummy. For dinner the next night, it was also off meal plan. I made chili dogs. I'd watched the night that we had the Taco Bell bowls. I'd watched it was a What's for Dinner video from Tamara at Southern Wife Everyday Life. I'll have her channel linked down below. And she made chili cheese dogs and like semi-homemade mac and cheese. It just looked delicious to me. And I had some things that I needed to use up, so here is what I'm going to use. All right, so I had these hot dogs in my fridge I needed to use up, and then I've got this Lewis half pack of Hawaiian hot dog buns I needed to use before they went bad. Got some Fiesta Blend shredded cheese, and then I had a can of hot dog chili sauce in my pantry. For the semi-homemade macaroni and cheese, I've got some elbow macaroni and then the little Velveeta sauce packets. I have 2 pictured here, but really only needed 1. So for the chili dogs, I took the hot dogs. You can grill them, bake them, fry them, cook them in the microwave or whatever. I cooked them in the air fryer at 360 degrees for about 3 or 4 minutes. And then I placed my buns on a cookie sheet. Now, personal preference, I like to have 2 hot dogs to 1 bun. And then I added some of the chili that I just warmed up in a saucepan on top of the stove. I added some shredded cheese, and then I placed this into the oven. Sometimes I'll warm these up in the air fryer, but I just felt like doing the oven tonight. Honestly, I didn't feel like cleaning the air fryer after making these. I think I baked these at 425 degrees for about 5 or 6 minutes until the cheese was melted. For the macaroni and cheese, I cooked the macaroni according to the package instructions, drained it really well, added it to this pot, added in a packet of the Velveeta cheese sauce and a little splash of milk, and that was it. All right, here is the plate. So we have the macaroni and cheese, the chili dogs. For my husband's chili dogs, he likes ketchup on his. Sometimes he'll put mustard on it. He ended up adding some right before he ate. This was dinner, simple but delicious. I mean, I love chili cheese dogs. They're so good. For the last dinner in this week's video, it was also off meal plan and another yo-yo night, or you're on your own. I told you I was bad this week. I did not get a picture yet again. I apologize. But for me, I cooked up one of the frozen Totino's pizzas, just the little cheapy rectangular ones. I ate half of it. My husband ate the other half. And on this particular day, we'd had lunch at Buffalo Wild Wings, and he had just a few wings left over. So he warmed those up and had that along with the pizza, and that was our dinner this night. All right, that is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you liked this video and got some dinner inspiration. If you did, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.